What's up, family? This is your man, not your boy. Go Black to Africa. So I have a beautiful guest here, young lady to be exact, who is Rwandan. And she actually left Rwanda during the genocide at the age of 2 years old.
Yes.
And she has a horrific story, a successful story, a good story, a bad story to share. But ultimately, she wound up coming back to the motherland and will share her life experience over in Belgium.
Yes.
Please introduce yourself, my sister, to the people.
Hello, everyone. So, yes, my name is Anaïs Tushimana, and yeah, I was born in Rwanda and I was raised in Belgium. And today I'm here in Zanzibar, and I'm so happy that yeah, I get the opportunity to meet him.
Isn't it a beautiful moment when you get to meet a person like me?
Exactly. I only saw you on YouTube and I was in Belgium and I was like, oh, I hope that one day I can actually like meet him live too. Yeah, this is amazing.
Well, I'm thankful that you had saw me the other night. And said, hey, I know you. You're this and that, and
Yeah.
very bright young lady. And we'll get into her story. What I love about her is that she did not lose her African culture within herself. She still speaks the language, been gone for some years, lived over in Belgium. She's rocking the natural hair. I mean, she's got, the African garments and the colors and she doesn't look westernized.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at
Wait, but
all.
were you this way there over in Belgium though?
No, I have to admit that coming to Belgium as a child was really not easy because, yeah, I lost my parents during the genocide.
Yeah.
And so I was raised by my uncle. But at a certain point, the government decided that I needed to have like foster parents
Hmm.
because he was not our father. And so I ended up having like white parents actually.
Wow. And we'll get into that. So, you left Rwanda at the age of 2.
Yes.
Now, sad to say, your parents actually were basically killed in Rwanda
Yes.
during the genocide,
Mm-hmm.
and you were taken with your uncle
Yes.
to over to Belgium.
Yes.
And this was y'all went as a refugee or?
Yes, I was a refugee. So, yes, we were lucky because our uncle decided, okay, let me help these children because now we are orphans and I have two sisters. And so we were taken to Belgium as refugees. So we didn't have any other nationality for that moment. And yeah, we had to go to the refugee camps. We went through the whole process and then we went to live with my uncle, and at a certain point because they decided that this is not our father, it was better for us to get new parents. Yeah, it's a bit
Okay.
crazy.
You got there at 2 years old. You were with your uncle to the age of 14. Now you started to get into elementary school.
Yes.
How was that experience coming and growing up in Belgium, being a minority basically?
Yes.
Where did you live? What school did you go to? How was that experience?
I have to say that elementary school was very difficult because we were like the only black children there, and you are bullied. Not only that, coming into Belgium, they speak Dutch, the side where we were living, because we
Mm.
went from the refugee camp, then we were allowed to live in a home, and it was like somewhere in the village. So we went to the not really like it was out of the city basically. So all these children have never seen a black person, and they were like yeah, they were bullying us, and they would bully me in a language that I don't even understand. So I used to defend myself, but then it goes against you because by the time you go to the teacher to explain, you can't even explain because you don't speak the language. And this actually forced me to say like, you know what, I'm going to study. I need to understand Dutch because I already spoke English. So that I'm gonna study so well because I want to be able to explain to defend myself. Yeah, that's why, and also it was very difficult because living with like my uncle, there was like a culture clash. You're going to school, you're taught to speak up whenever something is going on.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to voice your opinion, but I was raised by an African person who said you're a child, you're not supposed to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
So that culture clash also led to the government kind of deciding like these children should actually be in a Western household so they can keep up.
Now you mentioned bullying and that you were all the only blacks or Africans that went to the school you went to.
Yes.
They didn't send other refugees, if you will, with you all in this community or the village area or whatever.
No, because actually in Belgium, when you arrive, they put you in a refugee camp. I
Yeah.
don't know how to put it. And then afterwards, they kind of tell you, okay, we're still looking into your file. You don't get the documents yet.
Yeah.
You have to go and do some interviews. So while you're waiting for them to give you like a citizenship or some sort of identification that you can stay in the country, you are allowed to be in certain areas, but not far from the refugee place that you are staying.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's yeah, you're kind of dispatched.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't actually meet a lot of African people, especially on the Dutch side, because they were not really that welcoming. So most people went to the French side of Belgium. They will go to the in Brussels, but my uncle was adamant that we need to learn Dutch, so he stayed on the Dutch side,
Okay.
and that's why we end up actually being in a school where we were like the only black children.
Oh, okay. What effect did being bullied by another race of people have upon you? How did you deal with that? You know, when I was over in Germany, I lived 4 years over in Germany, Stuttgart, Germany. The It was a challenging time for me, and that was in the '70s.
Yeah.
So that was back then. What was the effect? And it was as a young child, because I was there from first grade on through the finishing of my fourth grade.
Yes.
It had an effect on me in certain ways, but how did it affect you?
I grew up wanting to defend myself,
Yeah.
and having this urge, like I need to know, I need to be able to speak up, I need to be able to do something. That might explain actually my choice to study law later on, because I had this urge, like I need to speak up and I need to use something that anybody else can understand, which would be law, and actually to be able to like defend my rights. So, and at the same time, it also made me believe that maybe I was less, so I had to do more to get to the same level as the white children. Yes.
You know, that's interesting, because that was a video I just did yesterday on this system of where how the poor and the rich, the ideal of it,
Yeah.
and most of us will find ourselves typically in the middle class, that it really keeps us in bondage, because we don't want to go back to poverty, and we're trying to strive to try to get to that rich area,
Yes.
but it really causes a dysfunction within us,
Yes.
in a sense, you know. So I kind of get what you're saying there. So elementary school, then you get to middle school or what have you, high school. How was that, you know? Did you wind up meeting friends? Did you find some good, nice kids there that were Belgian along the way in your adolescent age on up?
I have to admit that when I went to the middle school, I kind of looked for other black children.
Yeah.
We were not a lot, but at least we had like a small group, because the bullying continued actually. And it was so bad that sometimes every Friday there would be a fight. And there used to be this group of young people who called themselves skinheads.
Yeah.
And they were literally against black or any foreigner, and they would fight every Friday. So we had to like have our own group to support each other.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up finishing middle school. I had some white friends, but not much. But at that moment, I had realized that, oh, I'm black. I have to defend myself. We are not on this, like we don't have the same rights, and these children can bully us, and the school will never do anything like to protect us. So to be honest, by the time I went to the university, it was actually for me like I need to find my African people. I need to find my people to feel safe.
You feel like you were alienated. You feel like that you was a stranger in a country,
Yes.
that you had to try to gravitate towards your own
Exactly.
in order to be in a secure place,
Yeah.
so that if you was going to defend, it would be a group.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's very important.
And this is the whole meaning when we talk about sometimes that, you know, even in America, that, you know, blacks need to unite with one another, because a system that is in place that sometimes is attacking you, whether it's through the job or through, you know, opportunities or inequalities, that we tend to forget
Yes.
that we are the victim.
Exactly.
And yet sometimes our own forget that, and then they choose a side because they're trying to climb this ladder and will even do more harm against your own people.
Yes, yes,
You've
exactly.
experienced that.
I've experienced that, especially in my work experience. I've experienced that most of the time. If I'm going to work somewhere and I see another black person, for me it's like, oh, we are. This is good. At least we are together. But most of the time, you realize that this black person is feeling like he has to do so much, and actually go even against you to prove to the like the company that they are the better, like I'm part of the good ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up looking like, what is going on? Like, I thought we were all together in this. We have all suffered, experienced the same thing. Like, there's no such thing like you are the good black one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, especially in a work environment, I've experienced it a lot.
Wow. Okay. So, did you like school?
I have to say,
I'm talking about like middle school or
yeah.
high school. Did you enjoy the school besides the bullying? But
Yeah.
what you were learning, I guess.
Yes.
And
I have to admit that middle school's for me not that interesting because you're still young and trying to find yourself. Where I started loving school was actually when I went to university
okay.
because there was the diversity. And I enjoyed school because besides that, I was learning something that I wanted to learn, like law. I went to law school. I was like, finally, I'm doing something that can help me in my future. And also, there's the diversity of people. There's so many people here that I can relate with. And so it was much more fun. You could actually talk about your story to someone, and they will be like, oh, I have experienced the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Who, I guess your uncle,
Yes.
how impactful was he in your education?
Oh, very impactful. I have to admit that if it wasn't for him, I don't think I would have actually finished my studies because since we were young, he always gave us the choices of an African parent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, either you become a doctor, engineer, or a lawyer. So I wasn't really that good in science, even though in middle school I did science mathematics, but I was just struggling to make it. And I wanted him to be proud. But then eventually, I have to admit that when I went into foster care,
Mm-hmm.
these new parents that I had definitely didn't think that I should study. For them, it was like, you are a refugee child, you should just enjoy life, go and party. Well, if you want to do a job, you can be a hairdresser, which is not wrong. But I mean, my uncle really puts it out there like, you need to study, you need to educate yourself because the system is against you. So you need to have something on paper that proves that, hey, I actually have the knowledge to do this job so you can compete on the labor market.
And we're about to step into that door right there. And that is the day came when you were 14 that the system thought it would be better for you and your sisters, your two sisters,
Yes.
to enter into a system of foster parenting
Mm-hmm.
because of your uncle
Yes.
not being your parents was not good for you all.
Yes.
How did that all come about? I mean, how did that decision come of him making that choice, relinquishing you all to a system? Please share with us.
Yeah, it was a little bit tricky because, of course, we were young, and my uncle raised us like really in a very good way. He had principles, and he wanted us to dream big and everything. But of course, my sister has seen a lot in the war, and she was sometimes sick. And the fact that we also were at school, and there was like the culture difference, the system decided that it would be better for us to have white parents so that we can like integrate into the system. Yeah, they thought that would make our upbringing much easier, but that was actually the contrary.
What type of work was your uncle doing?
He was working he was delivering letters at the post office.
Oh, he was a
Yes.
mailman.
Yeah, he was a mailman.
Okay, all right. And so he was financially stable enough to take care of you all, feed
Yes.
you, provide a roof over your head.
Yes.
And yet the system felt that it was best for you all to be in a foster parenting to get you, with a Belgian family
Yes.
that would hopes of getting you settled into a system
Exactly.
in the way they thought was fitting.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about, this right here. And we're going to have a continual video because she has a very interesting story that hopefully this will help somebody who maybe who's displaced maybe, some people who might be in Western worlds that are facing some of these disadvantaging systems that have hindered us. But foster parenting, you was in a system where you was a foster child.
Yes.
How was that at the age of 14 years old? Your sister was 16 years old, and your
Yeah.
younger was 2 years behind you, 12 years old.
Yes.
Please share with us about that experience.
Yes. So all of a sudden, I end up having white parents, and so I was also having a culture shock because of the way they raise children, which is completely different of how my uncle raised us.
In what way?
Yeah, my uncle is a religious person, so he raised us to actually like pray, to be polite, to study, to literally dream bigger because we're coming from a place where we have suffered, we have lost our parents, and the world is not going to be easy on us. So he has given us discipline. And then now I have my new parents, and they believe that because I have been through all of this, I should actually just relax and party. And they wouldn't check on me. Like in the weekends, they would give me money, just go and have a party. And I could come back after 2 days, they would not be worried, and especially they would never check on my study.
You had mentioned that they were trying to direct you to become a hairdresser.
Yes, they actually, because at a certain point I realized like this is not normal. Why is she not, like why is my foster mother not asking me about school? So I asked her, what do you think I should become? And then she mentioned that, yeah, you can be a hairdresser. And I kept remembering that my uncle always said like, you have three choices, like, and the hairdresser was not in there. So it got to a certain point where this my foster mother and I were like having discussions, and it got to a point where she actually contacted people from the court, because if you're in foster care, for them to actually release you or say we don't want you anymore, you have to go to court. So
She decided to take you to court because of what? What reason?
because I had told her like this is not the upbringing that we were taught. This is not how I want to live my life. We have bigger dreams. We are supposed to study. This is how my uncle raised us. So because of that, she decided, okay, I'm taking these kids to court.
She wanted to keep you in a place where she felt was fitting for you.
Exactly.
Now, anybody knows, I mean, I'm not going to downplay or make seem like a hairdresser is nothing, because, my business was barber and beauty. I had 3 Barbie beauty shops, and I had a beauty supply store, and I made a boatload of money off of it. But the way you were raised by your uncle, that he thought that these physicians and lawyers and electrical engineers, excuse me,
Yeah.
that this was more fitting for you, and you felt that you was even you had more to give beyond just a hairdresser,
Exactly.
and this caused a friction between you and her,
Yes.
to where she decided she wanted to get rid of you all.
Exactly.
Now, who else was in the household when she was a foster parent for you? Were there other kids in the household?
There
or
were
what?
other kids, so actually there was me and my little sister, because most of the time my older sister wasn't there, and then there were 2 other children.
Okay.
And there's also something, when you're in foster care, these people get paid to keep you.
Just like America, they get paid
Yeah.
this money, so they're using you as a means of income.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that was her job.
Yeah.
She didn't work besides just being with us.
Was there a man in the house, a husband?
Yes, she did have a husband,
Yeah.
but later on they also split.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't really a stable household. And I also have to mention the fact that the system put us in a household with this lady saying, this is your mother, but do you know where we slept?
Mm.
In the basement. Our rooms were actually in the basement.
Wow.
And I really wondered all the time, like, how can they consider this a suitable place better than staying with my uncle? I never really understood that part.
Okay. We're coming to a close right now because
Yes.
of due to the 20 minutes into this, and this is a very interesting story because we're talking about a child leaving Africa, going into a Western world, that most Africans and others need to understand this system when they accept you in. What are they actually really doing with you? Where are they positioning you, placing you in? Taking children maybe from their family members and putting them into a system so that then others can make money and benefit off of you.
Yes.
And then putting into the minds of the youth, of the children, this is where you should work, or where this is what you are only good enough for.
Yes, exactly.
So we're going to get into this court what
Yeah.
happened in the court when we come back to the next video
Yes.
and share that story. And then after that, we're going to get into your profession and how do you become a lawyer, and then how'd you wind up coming to Africa and where you are today. This is your man, not your boy. This is your...
Yes, Anais, and yeah, your woman, not your woman really.
This is your woman, not your girl?
Your girl, definitely.
She's a woman.
Think about it, 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 think about it.